Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Real Stuff podcast. We are doing a solo episode today, and I just wanted to come on the mic at the very end of my third trimester and talk a little bit about what's happening at this very moment. My plan right now is to upload this recording on, I think, Tuesday, September 3rd, and it's not even September yet. It's still August as I'm recording this. So I don't know if by Tuesday the 3rd, I'm going to have had a baby already. I pray that I will have. It's very possible that I still will be pregnant at that point. But keep an eye on my social media to see if the baby's actually here or not. And just know that these podcast episodes are not recorded in real time. I think I've recorded maybe 5 or 6 other episodes of the show that are kind of meant to hold me over for that first month and a half postpartum. And those episodes have been recorded and are in the can waiting to go live already. So I just want to call out, you're going to hear me talk multiple times as if I haven't had the baby yet, at a point at which I probably will have had a baby. So don't take what you're hearing on the podcast as real-time updates, especially if you're watching on YouTube and you're using this as sort of vlog style content. It's not accurate in terms of what's happening in my life. If you keep an eye on my Instagram at Fink, I'll be sharing more real-time of what's actually happening there. And just know these podcasts are pre-recorded often so that we can get ahead. Today, as I record this episode, I am exactly 37 weeks pregnant, which is the exact day in my last pregnancy that I delivered Milo. Everyone in my real life has told me throughout this pregnancy that I was going to have baby number 2 at the same time or earlier than I had Milo. Obviously, that's not everyone's experience with a second baby, but I guess it is kind of common that your second pregnancy and your second baby comes a little quicker. The labor is often faster. And I don't know, I guess for a lot of people in my real life, it happened earlier the second time. So I have been mentally preparing for that throughout this entire pregnancy, to the point where I was convinced that I was going to have this baby at 36 weeks. And I actually wasn't back in our home until 36 weeks exactly, because we spent a couple weeks with Michael's family, and I was convinced that I was going to have the baby when I was not home. That didn't happen, obviously. Here we are today, but I am 37 weeks exactly. And so now I know with confidence I'm going to have this baby later than my first. And not only have I been prepping for this mentally, but work-wise, I really prepped for an earlier delivery. What I mean by this work-wise is because my work is so project-based, I was able to start saying no to any incoming projects that are going to have deliverables that are going live anytime in September. And for pretty much the past couple weeks, I've been just wrapping up things that were lingering. And I finished everything, and I felt so good about it because at like 36 and a half weeks, I was done with everything. And I was like, all right, let's get the show on the road. Baby's coming in 3 days. And then, of course, the baby did not come in 3 days. And so now I'm in this weird limbo world where I don't have a lot of stuff happening at work aside from the podcast, which needs to keep moving. And even though I've recorded podcast episodes that are kind of sitting in the can, as I said, and ready to go live, there's still a lot of work around each and every podcast that goes up. Things like writing the description for it, getting it on YouTube, creating all the social assets. And I do have a team and people who are helping me do all this, but I really like to approve everything and be the final set of eyes on everything. So I still have some things to do, but my workload is just extremely light, and it feels weird that I'm waking up during a standard work week without a whole plate of things to do and without a whole new slew of projects to shoot. And I'm kind of just waiting for something to happen here. One of the weirdest parts of waiting for a baby to come is that you don't even know what you're waiting for. You don't even know what is going to happen or how it's going to happen. So for me, last time at 36 weeks and 5 days, I went to an OBGYN appointment and my mucus plug had fallen out in my underwear. I don't know if the word fall out is the right word for that, but my mucus plug came out and I noticed it at that appointment. The next day at 36 weeks and 6 days, I woke up to contractions, which kind of lasted the whole day. And then Milo was born at 37 weeks on the dot at like 2:50 a.m. So came very quickly after the contractions started. Because I had that experience the first time around, my brain can't really fathom yet a different type of labor experience. But I know logically that every labor is different and that it kind of starts differently for different people. So some people, their water just breaks out of nowhere and then they go into labor. For other people, their mucus plug comes out and then that triggers contractions. Some people lose their mucus plug weeks before anything starts happening. And then other people never lose a mucus plug, their water never breaks, and they just start having contractions. So that's one of the weirdest things for me right now is that I do not know how this is going to happen. And it's almost like every minute is a surprise. But I will say I do catch myself every single time I go to pee, checking in my underwear, checking as I wipe to see if there's anything happening, just because my brain is telling me it's going to happen the same way this time. If you're always craving fresh home-cooked meals with farm-fresh produce and organic meats, but the cooking and the actual preparing is what is tripping you up, it's time to try out Green Chef, the first certified organic meal kit company. Every week, you can choose from over 35 customizable recipe options. They have options for gluten-free diets, dairy-free, vegan, vegetarian. They send you every single little thing that you need to make the meal, plus a really nice printout of the recipe, step by step, making it so easy with pictures. A lot of the food takes only 25 minutes or less to prep. Whenever I share photos of these final meals on my Instagram, I get so many recipe request questions from you guys. So now for a limited time, new Green Chef subscribers can also get 50 free credits that they can use at ClassPass, which is about a month's worth of membership. When it comes to health, food is just one piece of this way bigger puzzle. So I personally love when two amazing companies partner up like this to help their customers achieve a more well-rounded approach to health. So go to greenchef.com/realstuffclass for 50% off your first box and 50 free credits with ClassPass. That's code realstuffclass, and it's at greenchef.com/realstuffclass, and it will get you 50% off your first box and 50 free ClassPass credits. The other thing that got me wondering if this second labor and delivery experience could potentially be not only way different, but way later than the first is that I made this post on Instagram asking my followers, if you have two kids and you've had two deliveries, when did you go with your second in relation to your first? Was it before, after, or the same time? And I guess because of my real life experience that I said before, I was expecting almost everyone to say that their second delivery happened sooner and faster. But I was absolutely shocked that I got hundreds of comments of people who said things like, I went at 37 weeks or 38 weeks with my first, and then my second didn't come until 40 weeks or 41 weeks or 42 weeks. Hearing these people share their stories really got my mind all twisted up into, okay, wait, maybe I need to really prepare for a later delivery. And my due date is technically September 18th. And here I am recording this in August, talking about delivery, which for some people is kind of a crazy thought. But I guess just because I'm so skewed from the first time that I really thought it was going to happen this early, and you just never know. In addition to the mental reasons why I would think that this baby's coming early, there are some also physical reasons why I was sort of preparing for an earlier delivery. First and foremost, I shared this photo on my social that I want you to go look at if you haven't seen, because it was a photo of me 1 week apart, I think 36 weeks and 6 days with Milo's pregnancy, and then 35 weeks and 6 days with this pregnancy. So I was a full week earlier in this photo this time, yet my stomach is a lot bigger. The baby looks a lot lower. I don't know, it's just the way I was feeling, the physical pain and pressure was so far beyond what I ever felt during my Milo pregnancy. So that was kind of what was making me think, not only is she more likely to come earlier the second time because she's my second baby, but if I'm feeling this way and I never felt this way with Milo, my body's just going to press the eject button soon, and this baby has to come out soon. So I want to dive into some of those physical feelings I've been having, especially this past week, that led me to go see a pelvic floor therapist to kind of figure out what was going on. I know a lot of people in pregnancy experience pressure and pain, and, especially at the end, once the baby's head is down in that position, which I know she's in, and her head is like in my pelvis bone, that's when the pressure can kind of start to get next level. And what I have been feeling recently is basically every step I take is just shooting pain right in the front and center, very low down. I would describe it as being directly on the middle of my pubic bone, like below the baby's head, but on the front of my vagina almost. I'm grateful it's not back pain at this point because I did have back pain at different times. Right now, it's just pressure and pain front and center. And I texted my OB about it because it was kind of like, do I need to use a walker? Do I need to use crutches? Like, I genuinely couldn't make that nighttime trip to the bathroom that I always need to do before bed. And I couldn't do it without Michael helping me and supporting me. And I was hobbling. I texted her and she said, it really sounds like what you're experiencing is, I believe the word is pubis symphysis. Another word for your pubic bone is basically split open. And I guess the ligament that holds it open is like stretched apart or ripped apart, and it could be split. So that's when I made the pelvic floor appointment because I was like, I need to know if this bone is split. And the pelvic floor therapist immediately palpated that spot and told me it's not split. Nothing is split. And the way she knew is because she told me that if it was split and if she had been touching this one spot, I would be screaming in pain, and it didn't hurt what she was doing. It's not like when someone pushes on it, it hurts. It's more so that when I step on it and I'm putting pressure on different feet, it starts to be sore, which makes me think it's more of like a round ligament pain or like a pulled muscle type pain, or just pelvic stretching. I don't know, but thankfully nothing is split open. But what the pelvic floor therapist did do is, put on gloves and go inside. And the moment she put her finger in, like, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm showing how much of her finger went in before she stopped and looked at me and said, "Oh, there's the baby's head." And I was like, "What are you talking about? The baby's head? You could feel the head?" And she's like, "Well, not in your uterus. It's not like the head has come through the cervix yet, but I can feel the baby's head directly on the other side of the cervix," meaning she's head down, she's in position, she is very low. She's basically right there. So at this point, I feel like I really am just waiting for the water to break or the mucus plug to come out and something to get started, because I know she's locked and loaded in that position. And she actually had me put a glove on and go in myself. And she's like, "You will feel the head if you do this yourself. Just put your finger in and feel." Because normally, anyone who's ever gone inside of themselves and kind of felt around in there, which I used to do during different phases of my ovulation cycle to see the tilt of my uterus or the softness of my cervix at different times. And anyone knows that when you put a finger in there, it's soft and squishy, and you could go pretty far in and it's like squishy. And I put my finger in and I was like, oh, boom. It's like you're hitting a wall. It was also crazy because as I was poking at the top of her head, she started moving a little higher up. And it was like, I'm literally touching you right now. We are layers of skin apart. So that was kind of crazy, but it was good to learn that nothing has separated. And really, we're just at a stage where I'm in this kind of 24-hour cycle of pain and then feeling a little bit better. So usually the middle of every day, which is when I've been kind of on my feet for a little while, is when I start to feel that pain from walking. Don't even get me started about the end of every day. At the end of every day, I'm borderline in tears. I haven't actually cried yet from this pain, but I'm like really complaining, probably being really annoying to Michael about how hard it is to roll over in bed when we're lying in bed watching a show at night. I need to actually sometimes orient my body away from the TV and then curl my head back to see the TV because I can't be on one side for too long. When I get up to go to the bathroom, swinging my legs over the side of the bed is very painful. By the end of the day, I am confident either my water's going to break over this night right now, or I'm going to wake up to a contraction the next morning, because how long can I possibly feel this way for? But then unfortunately, or fortunately, I wake up the next morning, and because I've been off my feet for, 7, 8, 9 hours in bed, I wake up and I actually feel a lot better. And it doesn't hurt as much to get up, and I can walk and move around, and I'm pretty mobile in the morning. So by the morning, my brain completely flip-flops to, you know what? I might actually go to my due date, or maybe this baby's going to be born late after her due date. It keeps going back and forth for me, and I just don't have an answer. There's this thing that people say is a trend you can look for on your Oura ring if you sleep with an Oura ring, which I do, which is looking at your heart rate variability, your HRV. Throughout pregnancy, that number tends to drop drastically, but there is a theory that Oura put out like a scientifically backed theory that if you are pregnant and if you start to notice an upward trend in your HRV, it is usually a sign that you are about 7 weeks out from when your baby is going to come and when your body's going to go into labor. So, of course, I've been staring at my HRV trends for months, trying to figure out when I have this random spike and then forward track 7 weeks to see when I'm going to go into labor. And I just have to say, unfortunately, this trend did not happen for me. I've had an exceptionally low HRV throughout the entire pregnancy. And there was maybe one day in June when my HRV went up by maybe 15 or 20 points. Points? Is that the right word? 15 or 20. I don't even know what the system is that it's tracking, but it went from being in the 20s to being in the 40s for 1 or 2 days. But when I forward track 7 weeks from that point, it's like I've already passed that week. So I don't buy that that is accurate, but a lot of you guys have sent me screenshots of that HRV trend and the articles about it, and I'm sad to say it hasn't really worked for me, but I'd be curious if anyone out there is going through pregnancy and has noticed that spike being at a time that is actually 7 weeks prior to when you have your baby. If so, please let me know. I find that stuff fascinating. I am just really excited at the point at which I'm not pregnant anymore to have my HRV hopefully go back up to where it started at, because I know that it's such a marker of health and your heart health, and I just really want that number to be high. So I'll keep you posted on how it rises postpartum. In other news, you maybe saw on my social media that I am now an aunt. So my brother and my sister-in-law had their baby girl. Her name is Fink. Michael and I got to go meet her. We haven't taken Milo yet because we figure that when our baby comes and Robbie and his wife come with their baby, then Milo will be able to meet everyone. We just wanted to go over ourselves and really get to see her and have some time alone. And it was so special, A, to see my older brother as a dad. He seems to be the kind of person who's just made for this. So loving, so excited that she's here, doing everything, constantly changing her. He's like an expert swaddler already. And just watching him change into this role has been so, so cute. And his wife, Hannah, is doing incredible. And it's been so nice to have a family member go through this so close to when we're about to do it, because it really did get me and Michael very excited when we went to go see her. It's like you forget how small newborns are. You forget how cute they are. You forget what's coming for you unless other people around you have it happen kind of close to your time. And so it was a good way for us to almost enter into this second cycle ourselves, was to get to go over and see her and hold her and see some other people who are going through it. And it's also just going to be so nice to have a sister-in-law that's going through every stage of the baby stage and the toddler stage around the same time as us. Now it really is just a waiting game over here, and I will obviously keep you posted on social media about when there's any action or when anything happens. Some things that I'm doing right now at 37 weeks to try to get the show on the road are things like curb walking, where you have one foot elevated on the side of the curb, the other foot on the street, and you're kind of walking unevenly. Apparently that helps. Sitting on a bouncy ball when I'm doing work instead of in a hard chair. I'm like sitting and I'm trying to do a lot of circles. The pelvic floor therapist gave me some stretches that I could be doing that are openers. I've been eating a lot of dates, which I know can help, quote, ripen your cervix. Although I also know you would have to eat a lot of dates to really have that trigger you going into labor or doing much, but I'm trying to have a few a day. I'm also trying to schedule some foot massages and pressure point things that I was avoiding for a while, because they tell you to avoid having certain spots pushed too early. And now I'm scheduling those appointments. And I also scheduled an acupuncture appointment at the same place I go for pelvic floor therapy, which I think is going to be kind of a combination of acupuncture and acupressure, hopefully on some labor-inducing zones. And then the last thing that people say can help put you into labor is nipple stimulation. I haven't been doing like too much of that randomly, but what I did do is try to collect some colostrum using these little Haka colostrum collectors. I knew I was going to have some because already in this pregnancy, I've had moments of waking up with like little wet spots around there. And when I go to shower and I take my clothes off at the end of the day, I've seen like some discharge and some stuff that's already there, which happened to me in my first pregnancy too. But this time, I guess, I don't know, I tried squeezing and I tried collecting it, and I basically just got like 4 drops of colostrum. They weren't even drops enough to turn into like a liquid at the bottom of the collector. It was just like drops stuck to the side, which I do not think is useful at all, because even if I freeze that and then unfreeze it to use it, I can't even get it out. So honestly, in my first pregnancy, if I had collected even little droplets, I probably would have saved it and been like, this is liquid gold. I'm going to figure out a way to use this. This time around, I am very confident that my milk supply is going to come in as it did the first time. And I don't think I'm going to need those 4 drops that are stuck to the side of the collector. So I think I'm just going to toss it. And instead of considering that like a colostrum collection moment, I'm just considering that nipple stimulation, which will hopefully help. I also have an appointment scheduled later today with a new lactation consultant, and I'm going to talk through. This was a recommendation from a close friend of mine who had a feeding journey that is very similar to what I want to do with my feeding journey. So I just want to talk through my whole plan and my vision with her. And I basically would just love for her to give me a loose outline of what I should be doing in those first couple weeks, especially to kind of set my body up and reach that feeding goal. If you are one of those people who likes following me on YouTube for vlogs, you probably will have noticed that throughout the time that I've started the podcast, I've kind of slowed down, maybe just uploaded like 1 or 2 vlogs. Bandwidth wise, doing a podcast takes a lot of time and a lot of editing, and I'm just in this season of life where I'm focusing on the show. And I did just put out a new vlog. No matter when this episode actually goes up, that vlog will be live already. I think it's going to be called something about prepping for baby number 2, and I had so much fun putting that together. It kind of re-inspired me that I want to get back into some of those lifestyle vlogs on YouTube. Obviously, I need to have the bandwidth to do it. But if you're interested, definitely go check out that vlog on my YouTube channel. I'm just going to keep you posted. I know this is a short episode. I just sort of wanted to come on and give you guys the update and share where I'm at. And just know that we have a lineup of some other great episodes coming up, a couple audience caller episodes, a couple more solos. We have Michael coming up on the show soon, and a lot of great guests that are in the works. Thank you so much to everyone who has been active with me on social media during this time, giving me your stories of the end of your pregnancy and talking about how difficult it is. I feel like I keep hearing the phrase, the end of pregnancy is brutal, and it's just so hard at the end. And I have to say, I'm grateful that the first time around, I completely missed that boat. I mean, I had Milo 3 weeks earlier than most people if they go to 40 weeks. If people go to 42 weeks, I had my son a whole month and a half basically before they had their babies. So I really missed the end of pregnancy. And I didn't feel like the end of pregnancy last time was so brutal and so hard. It's more so this time that I'm realizing, oh my gosh, your body just gets to a point where the pain becomes unbearable, and especially with a toddler and needing to like lift him and do things with him, it is so difficult. At this point, Michael kind of knows I can't do any lifting with Milo. I can't even pick him up and put him in his little floating counter seat for meals or his high chair. I can't take him in and out of the crib. I'm not doing any changing table, changing him into clothes. I'm just kind of tapped out by now, and I'm very excited to get back and reintegrate myself into our family life. But thank you to everyone who has empathized and shared that the end of your pregnancy was also hard, because it gives me hope that, listen, if I do go to 40 weeks, 42 weeks, whatever, I'm going to get through it. And I really am trying to just enjoy this time. And even though I have no work and nothing to do, I'm trying to just enjoy and be present and soak up these last few moments as a family of 3 before our lives completely change again. If you're liking the show, please consider going to either Apple or Spotify and leaving a rating and review. Remember, if you do that and you send me a screenshot over Instagram DM, I will send you a personal voice note back as a thank you. And if you're watching on YouTube, drop a comment below. Let me know what happened for you in a second pregnancy. If you had a similar experience where you kind of expected it to be similar to the first and it was wildly different, and stay tuned for some great upcoming episodes of the show. All right, see you next time. Hope I have this baby soon. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in to The Real Stuff. I'm Lucie Fink. Don't forget to follow the show on social media at The Real Stuff Pod. And if you're liking these episodes, please head over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a written review. It helps the show so much. And if you're feeling called to come on the show, visit luciefink.com/apply and tell us your story. We'll see you next week for another intimate conversation on The Real Stuff.